So I just want to put a introduction to this video prior to actually publishing it, as I just want to speak to a few things briefly. I'd just like to thank, I believe, a subscriber of mine who sent me this actual piece by the same network regarding Gamergate, to which it's just a standard smear job. I'll put it in the sources if you want to bother watching it, but it's just another smear piece. It's just kind of amazing, you know, if you do watch it, how they bridge the gap so quickly to where they put in the notion of, we don't understand what Gamergate is about, but it's about misogyny. The only means that I have as an individual to combat what I see as the issue is to do what I'm doing here. Highlight the publications and the people that are slandering you and I. This is really all I know to do at this point. I'm sure in the future I can think of something that may be more constructive than this, because this is just me really just shitting on really shitty people. But eventually I hope that I can figure out where to go from here. But for now, enjoy this video, and appreciate you watching.
While we like to believe that video games are a reflection of its audience, the real power still lies with the developers, who ultimately decide what kind of characters are represented in their games.
Some studies have shown that it's actually the industry itself which is much whiter than the audience, that there are very few minorities working in the industry, in the same way that there are relatively few women working in the industry.
How many fucking times have we heard this goddamn talking point related to video games and tech, and how many times have we seen this written on as an absolute fucking lie? Tech companies are falling all over themselves to hire more and more women, not based on merit, not based on skills, not based on any actual organic demand, but pure ideology as the singular motivator for why they need to do this. I'm so sick of this. I'm so fucking sick of listening to this, to where you look at countries that do not have the same demographics as others. America is not the same as Australia. Australia is not the same as Japan. Japan is not the same as France. France is not the same as England. None of these fucking countries have the same fucking demographic breakdown. And to assume otherwise is to make yourself out as a fucking idiot. These companies should hire based on merit. Nothing less than that. Hire based on merit. Not identity politics, not whether you have a cunt or a cock. Stop making this about identity politics, you fucking brainless academic.
So the games that come out actually represent the people who are making them, rather than the audience who are playing them.
I don't think that we design games to target a specific race, a specific age, a specific gender. We try and just make games that we, as the developers, want to play. We make the games that we care about, that we're passionate about. When we started doing Gears of War, we never said like, hey, we need our Asian person, we need our African American person, we need our stock white guy. We just kind of started developing personalities. People always say, oh yeah, well you've got Cole.
You're gonna let anyone else have that ball?
People always accuse us of going with somewhat more of a racial stereotype there. But it's funny because that wasn't originally how he was written. Originally, Baird, the sarcastic Caucasian guy,
Yeah, you're right about the smells lingering forever.
he was booked in that sports role. And then we met the actor who we chose to do Cole, and we kind of started tailoring it more toward him. We changed the character to look more like him, and he had just like such a great personality that we ran with it.
The train still got the moves, baby.
Racial representation is just another issue in a long list of controversial topics surrounding gaming.
Are we not going to take 5 fucking seconds and talk about how that guy, that one developer, and that one reference to one character just completely undermined every other fucking thing that has been said in this segment? Are we not going to, in any way, talk about that? We're just going to breeze right on by that. It's almost amazing to me that they even made this segment. This completely undermines every fucking other thing said in this goddamn segment. But hey, you know what? I'll just let that game and that developer and that actor speak for itself in terms of how all of this shit is utter goddamn nonsense. And this, again, is ideologues assuming the worst in absolutely fucking everybody. Fuck off, you misanthropes.
And reactions towards those who decide to take a stand can become very heated.
Okay, an example of it is from Dragon Age. In the first version, you could make your character have kind of dark brown skin, but one player posted on the developers' forums that he wanted to see them include an African-American character in the second version of the game. And the arguments and the abuse in response to that question went on for weeks and weeks.
2 brief points before we move on. The first of which is that, hey, guess what? BioWare Enron, while pandering to you, has successfully driven itself into the fucking ground. They are now penny stock. Their franchises are fucking toxic. They are untouchable. They are shit. Dragon Age Inquisition was a fucking embarrassment of an already flawed fucking franchise. It is unplayable, and beyond that, tedious, with characters that are so poorly written that what makes them them is simply being gay or some other fucking identifier. This is a worthless fucking franchise now. And we move on to Mass Effect, which deserves really its own video series. I could talk for hours as to what an issue Mass Effect was for BioWare as a company and how they went from having this one franchise that could have broken them into the mainstream and made so much money for them as a company had they actually been able to keep the talent that did exist at the company at the time, but they couldn't do it. Mass Effect 3 was a piece of schizophrenic shit, the ending of which was so bad that it created an entire controversy. You had fans coming out in droves that were pissed as shit that this game ruined their experience. I was among them. And so what happened? BioWare turned to the press, who came in and slandered and mocked and fucked with gamers for so long that they eventually gave up and are like me now, jaded, disillusioned, and have a seething hatred for fucking BioWare. I fucking hate their company now. A company that I was a fan of for fucking years, I now hate because of how poorly I was treated, not just as a fan, but as a fucking consumer.
What were you thinking? What was going on in your mind? Artistic integrity. Well, where did you come up with that? You're not artistic, and you have no integrity.
BioWare Enron is penny stock. They are a worthless, talentless fucking company that no one has any hope for. No one believes that BioWare is capable of putting out much more than what it has been in the last 5 years, which is utter goddamn garbage.
When the website was first launched, for the first couple of months, it was hacked many times by different people, and a lot of other defacing type things happened on the site. There was a pretty clear opposition, and there still is. A lot of people think that our movement is about censorship, but it's not. We're not trying to censor gamers. We understand that people want to have their free expression. We just think that it's important that in a shared community, you have expression that's safe for all members of that community.
You can call this safe spaces, or you can come up with a new buzzword. You can try to spin this all you like. You can call censorship no platforming or whatever the fuck you want to. But we all see this as fucking fascist garbage that you are trying to come into gaming with. Whether it's the industry and censoring art or the community and trying to censor opinions, you can fuck off, dude. A quick example would be someone such as Milo Yiannopoulos. He's involved with gaming now because he's one of the few people that's speaking out in favor of fucking free speech in gaming, free expression in this artistic medium. He's one of the few fucking pundits that's actually covering what's happening in gaming right now. And he's a guy I disagree with. I'm not right-wing. I don't agree with his politics. And you know what? That's too fucking bad for me. He's allowed to hold an opinion. He's not committing any crimes. He's not inciting anyone to violence. He's not fucking threatening anyone. He's not doing a fucking thing other than having his own opinion. And that is not fucking wrong. You, in this case. You, the fucking guy that claims to be against bigots, you are the fucking fascist. You are trying to dictate who is and who isn't allowed to speak.
It does raise this critical question of how you balance the undeniable and vitally important right to freedom of speech with equally the right not to be subject in a public context to a form of racial hatred.
Now we're going to stop here for a moment and I'm going to play this again. And I want you to understand where this is going and why this is being said.
It does raise this critical question of how you balance the undeniable and vitally important right to freedom of speech with equally the right not to be subject in a public context to a form of racial hatred.
As we all become more vocal and the industry is better racially represented, we can start to see the immediate impact in the games.
Is the Colbert Report? I want to be with some great dance beat. I want to be, the hills are alive. I want to be with some great dance beat.
The other thing that we would quite like to see would be young people having an impact on the way in which these games are actually being developed, being produced, and say, we're a bit past those stereotypes now, we're a bit more sophisticated. We don't have to see gay men portrayed in a particular way, or women always having a particular figure and playing a passive role, and the baddies being black and the goodies being white. We're past that. We're much cleverer. Let's develop some games which are more nuanced and reflect the multicultural society in which we all live.
And now we get to the very worst part of this video, and it's in relation to the president here of the Australian Human Rights Commission. And that, did you notice that line before about racial hatred in video games? And understand that this is based on nothing. This is a nonsense issue of stereotypes, fictional fucking characters in a video game. She's trying to say that because there are stereotypes or stereotypical characters in video games, that's a hate crime. Fictional fucking characters in a video game. That actually results in a fucking hate crime. And then you actually look up who these people are, who the fucking Australian Human Rights Commission is, and you find out they have the tools to censor content based on fucking hate crimes. That's why this bitch is on here. That's why the press is covering her, because she has the means by which to censor fucking video games in Australia. You can't make this shit up, ladies and gentlemen. This is so fucking ridiculous that I couldn't even believe it the minute I looked this shit up. I couldn't fucking believe it. I could not believe that Australians are this fucking illiberal, that their own press is giving literal censors, such as this woman, free airtime to opine about how wonderful it would be if she only had the fucking means by which to censor these games. If only she had that fucking excuse of racial hatred that she can turn around and then censor these fucking video games, take them off the shelves so that people within her own country can't play them. And once again, I'll remind you, we're talking about an artistic medium, fictional fucking content, simply art. And this person is who they have on. This is who the fucking press are giving attention to. The Australian gaming press, taxpayer funded. That's who's giving this person the time of day.
Developers care enough to create real stories about real people, then your audience is going to connect to that and kind of become a big community. And without that community, your games aren't going to have the longevity and tail that they need to succeed.
So I realize that I've talked shit about Australia in this video, but I really have to say that I honestly feel for you guys, Australian gamers. I mean, this is what you have to deal with. You have your own press giving a fucking platform to a literal censor to opine about, you know, if only she could empower herself that much more, if only she could give herself a reason to exist as not just a bureaucrat, but also a politician, that this is what's going to give her that much more power. It's going to give her that position and justify her existence in government, is to censor video games based on absurd notions of hate crimes. It's fucking nuts. But that's it for me. Follow me on Twitter. And the rest, thanks for watching.